Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classics / Non-Classics. This is episode number 1729 and Doubleshot number 1623. I have a Marvel trade and DC trade. First up, it is, from what I can tell, the most recent trade released for this volume for Spider-Woman. I am loving Spider-Woman so far. There was something in this book I did not like at all. And this was something I think a lot of people, when they read this, are like, man, this was dumb on the writer's part to do this, because this is probably an aspect of this hopelessness run that basically people loved so much. And they had to end here. So, this book collects issues 11 to 16 of Spider-Woman. I believe this is volume number 7. Yes. Written by Carla Pichetto and Perry Perez, who does the artwork. Now, there's basically about a couple different major story arcs in here. Yeah, it's roughly 6 issues, but roughly it's 2 story arcs in here. The first one involves basically Jessica Drew, which is going on a date with Roger. And they get something because, well, being a superhero and being distracted. You can tell by the artwork, you probably think, oh, the style of it is very similar to Greg Land's. But not exactly, no. Perry Perez is a much better artist than Greg Land is. At least Perry Perez doesn't trace from frickin' porn. Yes, frickin'. Not the other for it. Yep. And, well, fights a bunch of Mexican guys. And, of course, well, Jessica's distracted by superheroics. And then issue 11 ends with Roger with an engagement ring. Yes, he was actually seriously considered proposing to Jessica Drew. And after the whole thing with this, which by the way the story is really good with him for fighting more bad guys in prison, like these other guys trying to escape. And then finally we have the scene that really ticked me off when this came out. I did not like this scene at all, where Roger is written to be very... This is what he says. Where you have the back of the apartment that they share. Roger, who actually has lost a little bit of weight since his debut, he's a little more muscular now than he was basically when he showed up in this book. He says, I will always be there for you and Gary when you ever need me. You don't need me, do you? You don't even respect me. You don't think of us as a team, Jess. You honestly can tell me deep down you feel the same way for me as I do you? That's what I thought. And then she cries, I'm sorry. Yes, basically the writer broke up Jessica Drew and the Porcupine. This, in my opinion, is a really stupid idea. At least the other one that happened in the Kelly Thomas and Captain Marvel, at least that was fixed. She must have realized her mistake and fixed it. This is stupid. Really stupid on the part of the writer. Breaking up this couple. Great couple. That I think a lot of readers must have really loved this relationship, and it's shoved to a side. So, now, I'm not really sure exactly why the heck that the writer did this for, because they replaced the babysitting gang from her to Lenz and McCabe, who was an old friend of Jessica Drew's. And the issue 13, we have appearance by Lady Bullseye. Yes, Lady Bullseye. A character from Daredevil comics. And you're thinking, really? Why the heck is a Daredevil villain doing here? Well, she has history with Jessica Drew. And you're thinking, what history? Well, that's from Secret Avengers Volume 3. No, I'm not kidding about that. Yeah, that's simply put the reason for that. Now, prior to appearing in this very book, her last known physical appearance prior to show up in this very book, by the way, she has not appeared very much. She only first showed up like about 14 years ago. Yeah, not very long. I mean, her most recent appearance prior to appearing in this very book was back in the first issue of Iron Fist Heart of the Dragon. Yeah, when she popped up for issue 13. She popped up here just for the first issue of that book. But prior to that, she appeared in the first issue of Star. Yes, Star, which came out in the start of 2020, which I have reviewed that. Really good book. Appeared in a few issues of West Coast Avengers, the last couple issues of Kelly Thompson's Hawkeye, which I still disagree with the cancellation of this book. Yeah, you think of her like, wow, like she appears mostly in Daredevil. She appears throughout the Annie Diggle run. I believe she's an Annie Diggle character, I'm mistaken. No, she's a Brubaker character. A Brubaker character no one talks about very much. Yeah, most like Daredevil. One issue of Black Widow. Yes, the Mark Waid issues. I think it was Mark Waid. It was Marjorie Liu. Yeah, a run that came out roughly over a decade ago. Yes. And aside appearing in the Black Widow issues, appeared in Shadowland, one issue of Vengeance, appeared in the last story for Black Panther, Most Dangerous Man Alive, returned from one issue of Daredevil, a few issues of X-Men, 2 issues of the Mark Waid run for Daredevil. Well, they do reference in here the one issue of Secret Avengers, that the issues of Secret Avengers where they fought each other, which, yeah. And of course, she also popped up in Elektra, which I've discussed that one. Civil War 2 Kingpin, discussed that too. Basically, I've discussed like almost all appearances today except for some of her Daredevil appearances. Yes. Though I haven't discussed the Marjorie Liu run for Black Widow yet. Yes. So yeah, she pops up here for this one issue here, and also appeared in the most recent issue of the series. Yeah, and this was the first time these two have met each other since that one issue of Secret Avengers. Yeah. And, yeah, fights are here for this one issue. Yep. And also, we have the return of Lindsay McCabe. Yeah, she's an old friend of Jessica's, who I don't think she's appeared in years prior to this story. Yes, they bring her back. She's a stunt woman. Yeah, and she's a Mark Greenwald character. Thinking, really? She is? Yeah, she is. Yeah, first appeared back in Spider-Woman 14. And you're thinking, wow, 14. Back in 1979. Yep. And prior to this, what was her most recent experience part of this book? Get this. Sensational Spider-Man Annual 1996. And you scratch your head like, really? It has been that long? Yeah, it's... Oh my gosh, like, that was back in November 96 when the annual came out. Or more likely, like, September. So, and this issue here, that came in this book here, that was released in 2021. So, this is her first appearance in 15 years in comics. Really, they didn't bring her in. I don't know why in the world they decided to remove Roger for this. So, basically, the reason why she's here, despite the fact she's a stunt woman, she is hired by Jessica Drew to be her son's babysitter. Yeah, and it's so funny, though, the fact that Gary refers to her as Winsay. Yep, which is so funny. Yes, her adorable little boy refers to her as Winsay. Yeah, and then pretty much the main villains of... One of the main villains of these last few issues in this trade is her brother. Yes, her brother. Yeah, she works alongside her niece in order to rescue him from this woman, Rose. Yep, Rose. Yeah, and fights her this whole storyline. He becomes a monster of the storyline. Rebecca returns. Now, prior to this particular storyline, Rebecca had not appeared in the book since, like, I think not since the opening story arc of the run. Yeah, this is, yeah, apparently Michael Merchant is in fact Jessica's brother. Yeah, who actually first appeared in this very run. Yeah, I think that's kind of weird, though, the fact that where this character, Jessica Drew, he did not have much of a family at all, aside from her parents, and now apparently she's got a brother. Okay. And she, and basically the daughter, who, like, he puts on a costume very similar to one of Jessica's old costumes. Yeah, I guess she must figure that, oh yeah, like, despite the fact her father became a monster, she has an awesome aunt and a wonderful little cousin. Oh yeah, she refers to Jessica as Aunt Jess, which I think that's so awesome. Someone whose aunt, whose name is Jessica. Now, the only time I personally ever heard that, when I've heard to someone who refers to their aunt as Aunt Jess, was actually in Murder, She Wrote. Yes, I have watched that show. It's a great show to watch. Where her nephew refers to her as Aunt Jess. He, of course, got married, and they have a little boy. I mentioned one of the books I read, where he refers to her as Aunt Jessica, despite the fact he's actually the great nephew. So yeah, and we have this wonderful reprise of the first issue with basically Rebecca team up with her awesome aunt, and then of course you have Lindsay babysitting Gary, and then we have these guys in suits who are clearly not FBI. It's search a place and search for Miss Watson's files. And then they grab Lindsay. You got any powers, lady? Nope. She's basically a stunt woman. She basically beats the crap out of these guys very easily. But look how the awesome mom shows up. And of course Rebecca meets, Jessica's best friend Lindsay. Yep. And of course they go into Rebecca's mom, they do show exactly apparently her name was Allison Jones, who apparently was somebody that where her father basically was let's just say fell in love with, and of course they got pregnant. Now, at some point she died. Yes, all because of experiment, because he did alter the biologically. And the thing is, she didn't want to get fixed. She just wanted her father back. So she puts on a suit that's very heavily inspired by her aunts. You gotta love this awesome picture of her put on the suit. And then of course you have this line basically close out issue 15 saying this. Alright, let's go get your dad back. But I'm not giving you some fancy super psychic nickname. And she's like, don't need one. Yep. And she basically works with her awesome aunt. And of course, while she's been training. Yeah, and get this. Rebecca, that's basically Jessica's niece. She's got basically these, let's just say, braces on her legs in order for her to walk. And she uses it basically to her advantage. She basically uses her own cane as a weapon. Yep. And she finds her father. And of course, but he does get away. Yep. And of course, then we have basically kind of put this aside. And then of course, basically, to be continued with ninjas. Yeah. This book is great. I love it. Like I said, the only thing I didn't like, though, was breaking up Roger and Jessica. I thought that was a mistake on the part of the writer. But the book is still really good. I love the fact we're developing Jessica's developing Jessica as a character. But I do think her breaking up with her boyfriend was a mistake. Bringing Lenz McCabe, that was a good idea. Because no one had seen her in 15 years. So I guess that they decided to dust out this character just for this run. And you might be thinking, does Lindsay McCabe still appear in the book? You might ask. The answer is yes. Yes, she does. She's taken over as pretty much a regular supporting character in this book. As recent as the most recent issue that came out just about 2 days ago. Basically, it came out roughly about 2 weeks ago. Yep, she still appears in the book. Mm-hmm. As for Jessica's niece, does she still appear in the book? After the story arc wraps up? Well, she is not returning again until issue 20. Because she was in there for the first story arc, and then she appears for this story arc, and then the most recent issue, and that's it for her. Yeah. I do think creating her, a brother for her character, and, giving, a niece for her, that, in my opinion, was a really good idea for Jessica, because her only family she has is her son. And now she's got a brother and a wonderful niece. I give this book a 9 out of 10. It's a damn good book. I love it. Just like I said, the only thing I didn't like about it was breaking up Jessica and the Porcupine. Alright, next up is surprisingly the last trade for Ninja K, collecting issues 10 through 14 of the book. Mostly put for this one is just Ninjak versus Ninja C. Well, Ninja K he's referred himself in the book as. It's them fighting each other, and then of course he kind of is disavowed by the end of the book. Though, and in case you're curious though, the story does continue in his mini-series known as Killers. Yes. And the weird thing is, despite on the cover you see it looks like the Eternal Warriors can show up, he doesn't. Actually, he does show up, basically. He shows up here for like one last time. And yeah, this is basically the end of this very short-lived series. Yeah, I'm not really sure why they ended this book for. It was really good when it was coming out. I read the whole issues when they were coming out several years ago. And here, now I own all the trades for it. I mean, it's just really good stuff here. Like, he basically just turns over all the dirty secrets of MI6, and he goes off on his own. And you might be thinking, okay, like, does, of course, Ninjak return after this particular book? Well, he does have his own book now. Yes, he does. Yep, he does. Yes. But the thing is, after this book wrapped up, I mean, yeah. I mean, aside appearing in this book, he still occasionally appears. I mean, like, as soon as this book wrapped up, I think he popped up in, like, 7 other books. He was mostly also a guest star in pages of Bloodshot afterwards. Yep. Currently, he has the Ninjak book. Well, the current volume of the book, done by Jet Parker. Which, of course, the cover art's really good. The interior artwork is not very good. Nope. It isn't. It's technically, they say here, is the 5th book of Ninjak, which that's indeed true. Yeah, this came out, like, this most, I don't think I've reviewed the first trade yet. It has not been released yet. Well, actually it has. Well, I might get hints in the future. Yeah, and at the time this came out, now, this book started in November 2017, ended December 2018. Yeah, it didn't last very long, like a little over a year. And then the book ended. Then we had the start of this current book, which only started, like, last year, but they've only released about 4 issues for it so far. Do not know why. Valiant's moving this lately where, like, as soon as I finish the work, got the book on hiatus for a few months before we finally figure out something else to do with the book. Yeah, it's weird the fact that they had to wait, like, a total number of about 3 years to do another book. And you might be thinking, was Ninjak active? Other books, yes, but next book that came after this one is Killers. Yep, that was the very next book that came right after this one wrapped up. And oddly enough, it is not done by Chris Gage. It's done by a completely different writer, and it came like about 7 months after this book ended. That one I'll probably review in the future, definitely. But yeah, as for this book here, it's good. My final thoughts, Ninja K, I think it was great though. We got a chance to explore the whole history of the previous ninjas that worked for MI6, which was really good. Chris Gage himself did a good job of the book. Surprisingly, I think it's one of like a couple books I could think of he worked on at Valiant, because he currently works on. He did work on X-Men of War, definitely. He works on that one. He worked on that book, but he hasn't done a lot for Valiant. Not really, no. I mean, aside from this book, his first book actually was Bloodshot on the Hardcore, the very first Bloodshot ongoing series. And he worked on this book, and I believe he also worked on Exo, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I believe he did. Because I remember it was like Exo Man of War Volume 3. Well, it must have been 4. I believe he worked on that one, if I'm mistaken. No, it was Matt Knott. I think it may have been the current book. Because I know it was the current book right now for Exo. I think Chris Gage is working on that one, if I'm mistaken. Nope, I thought he did, but It's weird though. Christopher Cage, good writer, and yet he doesn't do very much for Valiant. No, not really. Oh, and by the way, the last issue for the current volume for EXO came out like back in December. No, seriously, I think the book actually ended after a very short period of time. It's by far the shortest book. But in the case of this book here, like, aside from there's still a few more books left to go for Ninjak under the current era for Valiant. Well, I've already technically reviewed Rapture, so I'm not going to worry about that. So, all that's left to go is roughly Ninjak versus Valiant Universe, Killers, and Riku. Yeah, roughly about 3 miniseries. And that's roughly it for Ninjak, for books-wise for him. Well, part of his franchise. Though he does appear in other books per se. I will eventually review those in the future because Ninjak is just a great character. I kind of wish, basically, that the current book basically would come out a little bit more frequently than it has been. He's also, personally, for me, one of my favorite Valiant characters. Like, if you ask me personally who is my favorite Valiant character, it's Bloodshot. Blood's one of my favorites. And yet, surprisingly, I've only viewed, like, roughly one shade for Bloodshot. The only characters I viewed a lot of their stuff is Ninjak and Rai. Rai I viewed pretty much the entire previous run, and I read the first trade of the current run. And that's it. EXO I've only viewed just a couple trades. That's it. I viewed other books. If you're curious, though, is there any Valiant book I will not cover because I don't like it? Yes. Quantum Woody. I'll talk about Archer Armstrong, no problem, because I like Archer Armstrong. But I do not care for Quantum Woody at all. I think their humor doesn't work for me. I'll read it, but I'm not going to review it. That's just me personally. I know there's probably fans, people who like Quantum Woody. Me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the book. The only reason I read it because it's a book published by Valiant Comics. By Valiant Entertainment. That's the only reason I read it. Yep, so that's going to be pretty much it for this particular review. Stay tuned for tomorrow. My reviews for, well, Shaman King, How Real Estate Rules the Kingdom, possibly One Piece, and maybe another comic corner, okay? Next video.